Brought to you by JMR Rentals, professional digital cinema and broadcast equipment rentals in Brooklyn, New York. JMRNY.com. Hello and welcome to No Rest for the Weekend. I'm Jason Godbey, and joining me in the Rabbit Hole studio today, she is an award-winning actor/filmmaker, Miss Tara Westwood. Welcome, Tara.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat.
Hey, it's great to have you. We finally
we
finally
did it.
Because we were going back and forth for a while. We first talked to you on the red carpet of, I think it was at Life. It was at Long Island International Film Expo, the longest name for a film festival ever.
Anniversary.
Yes.
And I was finally there. I was very excited.
We both schlepped out to the island. We should get a little merit badge for that. Thank you for schlepping to Brooklyn. All right, we're going to get right into it because we've got a lot to talk about. You got a project. You've been heating up the film festival circuit, which is good on you. And, hopefully you'll see some more awards and stuff like that.
Keep knocking.
But first, before we get into that, I want to talk to you about you. So how did you get into this whole mess of show business and whatnot? What is your origin story?
It is a messy business we've chosen. I'm Canadian. I grew up in Canada. I grew up on a farm in Canada, actually. Yes, and then I moved to Europe, and I was a model. That was a lifetime ago, so long ago. I moved to New York, and I don't think I'd ever kind of admitted to myself that I wanted to act, but when I was really, really young, I saw Kramer versus Kramer. And then I went to my bedroom, and for the next month, now I know what I was doing. I was just doing monologues. I was making them up. I was walking around in my room doing them, but I didn't know the word monologue. I didn't know what it was. I was just doing these things in my room. And I came to New York, and my friend's husband had just taken a class at the William Esper Studio with Maggie Flanagan. And he was like, "You should do that." So I did the summer program, and I was bit. I was bit. So then I started class then, but then I got married and pregnant, and life took me a different way, and I was a mama to two babes at home, and then I eventually came back to class and started going out for auditions and things like that, and I was acting. It's already a long answer.
If you've been alive for more than 5 minutes and and you've survived this long in this industry,
I'm already bored of my answer.
No, but so you come from Canada.
I do.
How long have you been in the States?
Longer than I lived there.
Okay.
This is home.
Okay, so because one of the things that I want to ask you about, because we want to get into the movie, which I think we talked to you a little bit about on the red carpet, but I watched it last night, and holy Christ.
Okay.
It's here's my review in a nutshell. Not subtle.
Okay.
My first reaction, I think after I saw it, I went, Jesus, like right from jump, it was. I was like, oh wow, they're not wasting any time with this thing.
It's a short movie. You gotta get to it.
But before we get into it.
Yeah.
Give me a little like log line premise kind of thing. Set it up for us.
It's about these two people who have lost family members to gun violence, and I play a senator who has voted multiple times against laws that could have perhaps saved their family, and they break into my home and my husband's home, played by Robert Burke, in the middle of the night to have a little conversation with us. And it stars Isaiah Whitlock Jr., Caitlin Maynor, and Bobby Burke. It's
really good cast, really tight writing. Like I said, not subtle. They are not mincing any words in this thing. I did feel a little like when people say, "Oh, the film was a gut punch." Most of the time it's not. Mm-hmm. But this, I think, that fits. And it deals with the gun issue, mm-hmm. which is a hot point here in America. I've made it a point on this show to not get political really about anything because that's not what the show is about.
Right.
But when you're talking about a politicized issue in a film, I think it's fair game. Tell me why your Canadian self felt like you could comment on U.S. gun law and all that kind of stuff.
In this country, because I actually grew up with guns. And I grew up, like I said, on a farm, and we had guns. And, a lot of times I'll be around very, very liberal people, and I'll say, I actually support the Second Amendment. And they know that I've made this film, and they're like, wait, what? But I do. That said, I think that it's an epidemic, and I think that some laws need to change. And if you look at the statistics, even 80% of NRA members, which I'm not, but 80% of NRA members believe in some kind of change. And I just don't understand how something like Sandy Hook can happen and then nothing changes. You know, there's been small changes since Uvalde, but very small changes would save some lives. And it's not going to save everyone's life. Gun violence is an epidemic here. There's more guns than people. It's here to stay. But wouldn't it be nice if we could save a few lives?
Yeah, unfortunately, America's kind of become the gun country, and we've been that. I mean, you know, if you watch any Western,
Yeah.
you know, between Westerns and cop shows and things like that, we've sort of glorified it here. And, you know, I'm with you. I mean, I was for the assault weapons ban under Clinton. I wish it ran out somehow. I don't know how the hell a law runs out, but I don't want to get too into that debate. But I do think it's great that somebody said something about it, and you do wonder, like, what is holding this back when it's something that it's like abortion. Like, the majority of people want it, like they want it to be legal with guns.
With
people
reason,
want like, you know. They want background checks. They want reasonable, reasonable backgrounds and gun control laws, and other countries don't have this.
Yeah, although I always try to stay away from the words gun control, because as soon as you want to control someone, they resist. And John Leguizamo is our executive producer, and the film, by the way, is called Triggered. But he's our EP, and we were talking about just that we want to be careful with our words. It's gun violence prevention, just because, again, we don't want to take away everyone's guns, but small changes like better background checks, like you said, red flag laws, and not just a red flag law that if you know of someone who has been a threat or is threatening people, but if you falsely accuse someone because you're pissed off at them, you can't do that either. There should be legal ramifications for that. But again, small changes could save lives.
It's one of those things that it will make you beat your head against the wall in this country. But I don't want to belabor that point. I'd love to talk to you more, just kind of about the film, and kind of tell me how it came about. Like, so did somebody approach you about this? Did you commission it? Like, how did you get it made?
So Thomas C. Dunn, who's our writer, who's just so great. I'm just laughing because of what you said about it earlier, how it's like in your face. He wrote a one-act play that I was a part of. Amy Schumer had a theater company called the Collective New York, and I was asked to be a part of the play just as an actor, not as a director or producer. I played the same part that I play in the film, Heidi, the senator. And I just loved it. I loved the writing. And a friend of mine who's no longer with us, Ed Vasallo, told me years ago that I should get on the other side of the camera if I wanted to have some kind of control over my career. And I think it's really important for actors to do that, produce, direct, do whatever, to cast yourself. And I was afraid that someone else would get the rights to this film and then not cast me. So I reached out to Thomas and I said, have you thought about writing this into a film, making it a screenplay? And he already had, actually. Someone had been to our play, asked him to do that. He sold it to them. And then it was too late. It was gone. Rights were gone. So I emailed him, I think 10 months later or something like that. And I said, listen, just curious, could I get a link? I'd love to see what they did with it. And it ends up that they were meant to start filming the first week of COVID. It was like March 2020. So needless to say, that didn't happen.
As begins many and ends many a story in the film.
Gosh, in March of 2020. So they let the rights lapse. And he said, do you want to give it a shot? You show me that you can do it. And again, I hadn't planned on directing it. I thought that I would produce it. I had lunch with our co-producer, Marie Therese, who's just amazing. And she said, okay, what do you want to do? And I said, here's the cast. I knew that I wanted the cast. I knew that I wanted the Newton brothers, who do all of Mike Flanagan's things on Netflix, like Haunting at Hill House and stuff, to do the music. I knew who I wanted to do our poster. I knew that I wanted Ed Lucas to be our cinematographer. I knew I wanted Galia Moores to be our editor. Like, I had everything. And she said, so who do you want to direct it? And I said, John Leguizamo. And she was like, okay, where did that come from and why? And I said, because he's a really cool guy. I know him. He's a friend. I know how he feels about gun violence and social issues. And he has directed, but not a lot. So maybe he'd be interested. It's a short, so it's not a huge commitment. And she said, and your plan is to go to John and say, here's the cast, here's the crew, here's the location, here's everything. Just go there for 2 days. And I was like, I don't know. And she's like, Tara, direct it. That's what you've done already. That's called directing. She was like, ask John to go on as an EP, and that's what we did.
Yeah. You did all the hard work first,
you know.
But I think if you especially if you're a first time director, if you know, and I mean you're acting in it, which is always a conundrum, about like, and I always question when an actor goes, I'm going to be in it and direct it, just because I know how hard both of those jobs are. But I think because you knew the character already and you had already lived in those shoes,
super helpful,
and you really seem to know what you want, and it's a compact piece. You weren't dealing with a cast of thousands, and so if you're gonna make your first film, this is a lesson, folks. Like don't make Lord of the Rings. Make 4 people in a room having a conversation.
Literally, I mean, and it was that. I knew it was location specific. I knew that it would be easy. I knew just cast the best people that I know, and then I don't even have to hardly worry about them. And I reached out to a bunch of directors I'd worked with before, and Nick Pesh, who directed me in The Grudge, said to me, just surround yourself with the people that you know that are at the top of their game, and then don't be afraid to say, I don't know. And I have learned so much because I didn't even know, like, do you want this in H.265? I was like, I don't know. Let me Google. I don't know what this means. I don't know what any of this means. So, I didn't go to film school. I've been an actor for many, many years, and I learned a lot by asking questions and by saying, I don't know what the heck you're talking about, but tell me what that means and I'll make a decision.
Director it's a really interesting post because it's one of the, as Francis Ford Coppola said, one of the few dictatorial posts left in this world. You are also often on a set with a lot of people who have either done your job or think they can.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's different if you're a woman, because I've never been a woman director, but I'm sure that with the prevalence of, I'm sure. I mean, I've been on sets before, and I know that the grip has probably directed something, and the gaffer's probably done something, and the DP's probably done something. But I think if you know what you want, the technical stuff will come. Like the technical is just like it's just the pencil. You know how to draw.
Well, I reached out to Ed, our cinematographer. He came to New York 10 days before we shot. We sat up in my dining room till till midnight every night. He'll correct me if he hears me say that, and he'll go, it was more like 2 a.m. And I would say to him, I started with him saying, listen, I don't know anything about lenses. I know that I want medium minus, once we get the initial coverage, medium to close-ups. I know that for this, I would prefer kind of like blues and greens. I know, I told him a list of all the things I know. And then I was like, but I don't know anything else. And he was like, you've already told me more than most directors tell me. So it's my job to figure out the lens. I'll do that. Tell me what you'd like. I knew that in order to get close-ups, I didn't want there to be a camera. We spoke a lot about, Ed and I, about a camera between the actors because it's just such an intimate, emotionally driven piece. So there was all of that. And then the crew was so great. And I was nervous because I didn't have a lot of money to pay people. Yes, we paid, but not a lot. And we didn't have a lot of crew. There was no production designer. That was me hanging the art and sticking the keys in the car and stuff like that. And my thing was we have to feed them well because that you have to show gratitude. You have to say that you're appreciative. So kind of in between takes, I'm like, chocolate, can I get you anything? And Ed was like, that's not your job. I'm like, there's no one else to do it. We don't have crafty. It's me. And one of the crew members came up to me after first day and said, can I speak to you for a second? And right away I was like, oh gosh, they're quitting. They're not coming back. Something's wrong. And he said, listen, we all just want you to know that we don't do a lot of independent little things like this. And we feel like this is a really good project and you're going to make a difference with this film. And I just started to cry. I was like, thank you so much.
You brought up a lot of great points. One is the importance of food on set.
Food is everything.
Oh my God. Because, if you're working for 4 days on a little piece and not getting paid and you're eating, 2-day-old frozen burritos and stuff, people get surly. And if you're on a project that you don't particularly care for and you're just kind of there because you need the job, if they feed you well, it's a little bit more tolerable
Yeah.
kind of thing. How many days were you guys shooting on set?
2, and then we
Yeah.
rehearsed for half a day before, just so we could kind of get a hold of the space. And Ed could light.
So you
Yeah.
play this character who's had to make lots of compromises with her voting record and things like that,
As it happens.
and things that you don't necessarily believe in
Yeah.
as a person. How do you play a character like that without judging the character? What was the process like in that?
I remember being in class and someone asked Maggie Flanagan, my teacher, because she had said you have to like every character that you play. You have to like them, and you have to find them inside of you. And they were like, well, what if I play Hitler? There's nothing likable about that guy, and I don't have any Hitler inside of me, kind of thing. And she was like, but you have to come from the perspective of like he really then play Hitler like he really was doing what was best for his people, and that's how you play Hitler. So when I play a character that I don't like, I try to find the righteous way that person is doing what they're doing. Like whether it's playing a senator that is doing things I don't agree with, or when I in Grudge I had to drown my daughter. And those scenes I don't think they're in the film, but they're in the deleted scenes on YouTube. And I actually, in my head, as I was drowning her, because of how Nick, our director, wanted it to come off, in my head, my character believed she was releasing her from pain. So I justified it that I was doing the most motherly thing I possibly could. That just got so dark. Now you know why.
Well, it's like
so sorry.
It's like when you look at a wonderful actor like Ralph Fiennes. He's one of my favorite actors
Yeah.
because the guy can do anything. Like you see him in, you see him in something like Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yeah, and then you see him as Voldemort. I
And
mean,
it-
he does everything.
But like, but all those people, they have a mission, and no villain thinks they are the villain in the piece.
Ever. Yeah.
Everybody's like their own hero. For something like Triggered, or because there's a lot of emotion going on there in a short amount of time. What do you do to prep for that? Like, I know you did the play, but before you kind of approached the role initially, like, what did you do? Did you research? What was your prep for that?
I mean, I did do some research, and as a director, I chose that we would do 14-minute takes, which is unusual on a set. We went from top to bottom because it's such an emotionally driven piece. So that also helped us all kind of stay in it. But I'm a mom. I've got 2 beautiful sons, and there's a rawness to me because of that, because I love my kids more than life. So I that taps into a lot of things for me as an actor.
What your film does, and what I like, I've seen short films that do this. You're basically starting at the climax of the movie. Like if this were an hour and a half, or something like this were if this were a feature, this would be the second turning point.
Right,
yeah,
right.
This would be the point where the stuff goes crazy and people start to the goodies and the baddies fight kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like,
Let's see if Thomas Dunn agrees, because he's writing the feature. But yes, go on.
I was going to ask you about
agree.
that in terms of plans, if there was a feature plan
There
for
is,
this.
but sorry, go on.
But so many short films, they start with the beginning of the movie, and it's like, and if it's a 20-minute film, to me that's like the kiss of death length.
Yeah.
Because if you're the audience, I feel, starts to kind of take a breath and go, all right, I'm going to be here for, and you've just ended the first act and the movie's over.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, well, that wasn't very satisfying. With this, you jump, it's, in media res, and, it starts right off the bat, and you don't have to worry about like, oh, where's this going to get to? Oh, it's there.
But there's still an arc. There's still there's still a story that happens. It's not like we maintain it at that level the whole time, which I'm grateful for. And I just want to address something that you just said, because again, I've learned so much about this process. If someone is listening to this and they're like, yes, this is great, I'm going to make a short film, I'm going to write something and do it with friends, for starters, do it. Don't make it 20 minutes. It's so hard ours is 18, and I'm grateful. Like, we were at Tribeca and Chicago and a bunch of wonderful festivals, but it's harder to place. Ours is 18 minutes long, and it's harder to place that long of a film. So my suggestion now, just from my very limited experience, is 11, 12 minutes is a really good sweet spot, or up to 15. Obviously you can go longer, but I would try to stick to under 15.
Yeah, there's a part where, and I've been to a lot of film festivals. I've seen a lot of short films. I've seen a lot of bad short films by first-time directors and so forth. I always say, keep it, like if it's your first one, make it a 5-minute movie. Like don't even play, because the longer it is, the more into the weeds you're gonna get, and it's like every minute is money on a set. If you are paying people, if you're not paying people, be nice to them and don't make them work multiple days. Feed them well. But yeah, one thing I like when I looked at the runtime, I was like, okay, it's a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But I did not feel it at all.
Good.
Like, because like I said, it is so, like heart pounding kind of thing.
Yeah.
So when it was over, I went, oh, it's over.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, oh wow, okay, and it does kind of leave you wanting more. So I'm wondering in the feature, what happens after this point, kind of thing.
So am I.
Yeah, which because it can, there's a lot of different ways it can go.
Yeah.
And it did make me ask certain questions. But I think I'm going to refrain from asking you them, because I don't want to spoil it just in case.
Yeah.
And I even thought about reviewing it, and then I thought, well, if I review it, the only way I can review it is to spoil it. Like you can't write more than a paragraph about this thing without giving the game away. If you want to say anything about it, because
Yeah, I mean, we've gotten a lot of reviews. Gratefully, most have been, I'm very proud of, and they don't give it away. There was one that did, only one, and the rest of them, they say that they say a lot, let's just say, but they don't give away the last moment, or they'll address it by saying, and it'll leave you with questions, or clearly, the director wanted you to talk about this when it's done because you're going to, and things like that. So I have people ask me what happened in that last moment, and I'll never say what I think happened, and I am always curious what other people think, and I think depending on who you are and what you personally bring into the theater or at home or whatever, that's how you decide what I'm trying to do at the end there.
I think it also depends on which movie tropes you subscribe to.
Yes.
Because I know what would happen in the TV version of this, and I know what would happen in the Hollywood version of this.
Yeah.
But I was like, well, maybe not, which is great. It's very rare that you actually see something that, you don't know what's going to happen in it. Anyway, I want to move on because you've been working a lot, and which is great. Good on you. So I wanted to kind of have you talk about some upcoming projects and what you got coming out in 2023.
Yeah. So January 13th, I've got a part in Gerard Butler's movie Plane. I keep saying The Plane. It's not The Plane. It's Plane. Yes, it's about a plane. And that was a lot of fun to film. I went to Puerto Rico for that. Love it there. And yeah, it's coming out January 13th. My scenes, I got to work with Tony Goldwyn. I don't know if you know him. He's just such a good actor. And he also gave me advice about directing too. And Paul Ben Victor, and it was a lot of fun to be on that set, and I haven't seen it yet, so I can't wait to see it. So that's coming out in January. I was on the last episode of Fleischman is in Trouble, which is a new Jesse Eisenberg Hulu show. That was a lot of fun. I've booked a film in February that's coming up that I'm excited to be doing. And my priority is still acting, and once Thomas writes the feature for this, I will be directing that. And I'm also co-writing right now a feature with Mara Lessman about medically assisted death. So another little light topic.
I can't wait for the feature on abortion.
I'm not going there.
Yeah, but
draw the line with guns and.
Yeah. Well, I one of the reasons I was thinking about Triggered being such a festival darling is because, for one, you've got some names in it. You've got and really strong performances, and those guys are a sucker for acting.
But I have an interesting story about that. Paul Sloop, who heads Cleveland International Film Festival, the shorts for them, and he also did Cordillera and Pittsburgh shorts as well. He's wonderful for a start, but when I met him, because we premiered at Cleveland before we came to Tribeca, when I met him, he said, listen, I have to tell you, I saw who your cast was. I knew them. He's like, I'm a big fan of Isaiah's. He knew them all, but he loves them all. He was actually blown away because Bobby Burke plays such a different character in this. And then Caitlin, everyone loves her. But he he said, when I saw who your cast was, I wasn't like, oh, that's great. Let's put that in the festival. I thought, here's another first-time director relying on their cast to make their movie good. And he said, I came in even more skeptical, like, this better be good, because if you're relying on their names to get your movie out there, that's not what you should be doing. And he's like, and then I was like, oh, she can direct. Oh, and that's her. So that was interesting to me, that it made him scrutinize the film even more.
That's interesting. I mean, well, I guess it kind of depends on where you're looking to go with it, because some of the more local festivals and people like that, they will, if you have certain names, they just want somebody to show up.
Right.
But, it's also very topical, and it's a hot button topic that's not going away. I mean, it's been around ever since I can remember.
Yeah.
And, there is that element as well of, like, here's a film that's trying to say something, and it's not just a punchline, and, it's going to make the audience talk afterward.
Yeah.
It's probably a good one to end a program with, I think, if you're a festival programmer. It's this way, when people are getting cake and coffee in the diner or whatever later, they can, hey, man, what do you think about that? But I which is great. This is what movies are supposed to do, kids. So for that, I know that, are you still circuit training for the festival thing?
We are, and we've qualified for an Academy Award, so we're currently on the Academy screening room.
Congratulations!
Thank you. Very excited about that, and the shortlist gets announced on December 21st. So fingers crossed for that. And yeah, we still have a couple festivals for next year that we're waiting to hear about, and continuing this journey.
Congratulations on all that. For people who want to know more about you, more about the movie, where can they find you?
On Instagram, I really suck at social media, but on Instagram, I need to remember Tara, Tara _Westwood. And then on Twitter, I'm Ms. Tara Westwood. And I think I'm just Tara Westwood on Facebook.
All right. Very cool. I'm going to wrap up. So,
thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was great to have you. Come back anytime. You're in New
leaving.
Yorker.
I'm right
We're here. We should do this again. All right, and that's all we got time for today. Thanks so much for taking this trip down the rabbit hole. For more of our content, including our movie reviews, visit our website, norestoftheweekendpodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app, and you can subscribe on YouTube, youtube.com/getbehindtherabbit. I'd like to thank my guests, Tara Westwood, and our sponsor, JMR Rentals, for Behind the Rabbit Productions. I'm Jason Godbey. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.